Hey, LinkedIn, YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to this beautiful Wednesday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're watching. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. Tony and I are so glad that you are here. Aren't we, Tony?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we are.
This is exciting. We are just going to jump into it. We are going to jump into our topic today. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're out there on the chat, just go ahead and drop in your name, where you're coming from, what you're grateful for. And while we do that, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Sharice Fonts. I am coming to you from the beautiful Bay Area, California. And I am grateful for my son turning 14 today. Today is his birthday. Shout out, Davian. Happy birthday, buddy. Pass it to you, Tony. Introduce yourself. Where are you coming from? And what are you grateful for?
I am Tony Taylor, and I am coming from Olympia, Washington. And I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm really grateful for it. I was looking at the news, and it seems like because of this coronavirus, there's a lot of people that didn't get a chance to wake up. So I'm grateful for that opportunity, because it is an opportunity.
Yeah. Amen. I hear you. Every day is a new day and a blessing. So again, welcome, guys. Let us know where you're coming from, your name, and what you're grateful for while we get this thing started. As the usual, we're going to start with an encouraging word of the day, which always usually correlates with our conversation. So I'm very interested to see if that works today as well. I'm going to go ahead and do a little shuffle. Tony, it's been a while since I saw you. I'm super excited. I've seen like some of the amazing stuff that you're working on. How's everything going?
It's going good. I've been busy, but a good kind of busy. Busy. Yeah.
Nice.
It's been good. I would say in the last month I've been to a few different countries, but just like from here in my office here. So it's been good.
Yeah, you've been teleporting, Tony.
Yeah, I've been all over the place. Over the place. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm super excited to see you again. Okay, we got Jared here. Thank you. Yes, I'll let Davian know you said happy birthday. Glad to see you. Grateful to see you too. Oh man, that's just warm. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's see what card we got. Live inspired. Tony, this one is like you to the core. We got live inspired. That is our encouraging word of the day.
I'm starting to think you plan those. you plan. It's like the fortune card teller, right? When you come up, they say, "Oh," they come up with your wife, and they say, "Oh, I see that you have a beautiful lady in your life and 3 kids." No, I'm just kidding. I know
Miss Cleo knows your future is basically what I'm doing. No, I don't know if y'all remember Miss Cleo, y'all. She's 90s. She's back in the 90s. No, I do not plan this. I literally put them down, shuffle, and pull. And this could not be more perfect for you and for this conversation. Live inspired. What does that mean to you?
I think for me, it means exactly what it means for me, right? Live inspired, live out my dreams, live in my purpose, know my purpose, walk in my purpose. That's what inspired means for me. Are you getting some kind of weird, like squeaky background stuff going on when I talk?
No.
Okay, good. No. I only hear it, so it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, let us know if you're listening. You hear any weird squeakiness in the background, y'all. But
remember what I was telling you about the internet? How much money you could pay for your internet, and you can put it in the same room with you, no matter what. You still gonna have problems with it, but yeah, like living and being inspired to me is just it depends on that individual.
Uh-oh. Did we lose something?
Yeah.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did you lose me?
Huh?
Did you lose me?
No, I can see you. I think I left for a second.
Okay. Well, welcome back.
Oh man. but pretty much, inspiring or being inspired. I think it depends on that individual. Definitely depends on that individual. And for me, what inspires me is to see others inspired. Oh my God, I love it. I love seeing people win, right? Whether it's in the internet, whether it's in person, man, I love it. I love seeing people win, and that's what inspires me. What about you? What inspires you, Sharice?
Yes. Thank you for that. And I did get feedback from someone that says there's a reverb when you talk. So maybe there is some feedback.
Okay.
We'll work it out. We're just gonna, as long as they can still hear you. If you can still hear us, Jared, that's all we need to worry about. But thank you for that. Live inspired for me, I feel, is an action of every day. Just, there are things around us that really are inspiring, and to just live in that inspiration. You said something earlier, like, I woke up this morning, like that's that's inspiring, because you think about, hey, tomorrow is not promised. I just posted a video of 84,600 seconds. We all have that in a day, and how that doesn't carry over to the next day, and how to use every 84,600 seconds. And for me, that's inspiring, because I think about it. If you had it in dollars, you would do everything you could to spend it, because you're not going to get it. You're going to get a whole nother set the next day. It doesn't transfer over. And so live inspired just means, with every conversation that I'm having, even if it doesn't go the way that I want it to go, look for the inspiration in everything. And that inspiration will lead to motivation, manifestation, higher vibration. So for me, that's what that means.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Nice. Well, let us not dilly-dally. Let's get into this topic. I'm going to put up for everybody that doesn't know why we're here today. We are here to talk about Black History Month, do's and don'ts, kind of everything in between. However, before we get started with kind of the conversation that we're going to have, I want to talk a little bit about the history of Black History Month, how it became. I created an infographic that is basically what I'm going to use. And if anybody is interested in that, I can post that up in the comments, or a link to the comments if you guys want to share it out. But basically, just a quick snapshot. In 1920, a man named Carter G. Woodson created a week called Negro History Week. And essentially what that focus was to highlight Negro history, because coming from a lot of suppression, there was not very much at that time Negro or Black history that was being shared. And he said, I want to highlight this. And so he created Negro History Week. And essentially, one of the things that came out of it, it became Negro History Month, and then coined to be more of Black History Month, and then adopted throughout the 1920s, 1926, 1940s. And so it kind of, you see it go through this evolution where not only the US made it, nationally known, but then other countries. So I think the UK, 1987, started to celebrate Black History Month. So essentially, that's a little bit of a history and a snapshot. It came from the understanding that Black history, Negro history, was not present in the day-to-day, and Carter G. Woodson wanted to highlight that. And so at that time, it's called Negro History Week, Negro History Month, and then it went into what we have today, which is Black History Month. So that's a little bit of the history. I have some more notes if somebody wants to ask any questions about it, but I just wanted to give you guys a little, paint the picture. I'll also post the infographic that has a little bit more history in there, just to give you a snapshot of what it is. So I think we have a comment. Oh, nice. Hey, Jen. Thank you for joining us. This is such a good way to look at the time. Yes, amazing, amazing. So we're going to jump into it. Tony, I have a question for you. We're going to start with this question. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. What was Black history like for you growing up? Like, where were you first, like, where did you first get introduced to it? And what was it like for you growing up?
I remember, I remember being a little boy and I was going to Catholic school. And I remember the first time hearing the phrase Black History Month. We had a Black History Month program. And in this Black History Month program, they wanted me to basically, be one of the characters because they needed me because in my class, I think I was the only Black kid in the class. And I remember at that time, being a young boy and just having the wherewithal to say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will not do it. But I remember my earliest moments of, hearing about Black History Month. I remember only talking about slavery or only hearing about slavery. And for the longest time, I thought that's where my history started. My history started with slavery, and just kind of how you and I were talking about earlier, roots. I remember seeing roots, being in the background of, even in my house, at, other people's houses. I remember watching it at school and thinking like, oh my God, are we really watching, these people get beat, these people, get put in cattle cars? I had no freaking idea. And that's what I identified with was, one that was beat, one that was, worked for free, one that had, raggedy clothes, one that wore materials that, that they wouldn't even put pigs on, right? That's what my history was like. I had no idea until, probably about last month, a few months ago, that I come from kings, right? I come from kings in Nigeria and the great empire of Mali, right? It wasn't until I read this book and I did some research on myself, and I'm just like, oh my God, I come from kings and queens and not just slavery. That's all I knew. That's all I knew was slavery.
What is the book that you just showed? What is that called?
It's called Understanding Contemporary Africa.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, it's a pretty good read. It's about 500 pages, right?
Okay.
Which still probably is not enough. It doesn't tell the story, but it talks about Africa right now, and it talks about Africa before and how it came to be. It's a really good book. It's taken me a long time to read it because I don't understand a lot of the terminology in it because, like I said, my Black history is Kuta Kinte, right? That's Black history. So I'm like having to, write down, all of these words and like actually study guides in order to understand this, because that's all I know is Kuta Kinte, or all I knew is past tense, because I'm taking it a step further to educate myself.
Right. Thank you for that. And very similar experience growing up. It started with, you guys come from slaves, and I really dreaded Black History Month growing up. It was the same thing. It was roots. And then Harriet Tubman was your hero. Martin Luther King ended racism, civil rights, and it kind of just ended there. I had no idea about Black inventions. I was, and I remember being one of the only, if not the only, having to sit there and watch Roots, and that scene of Kunta Kinte getting beat was just not a fun thing to sit and watch. And I just didn't understand what the point of this was. And it felt like every year, and I will tell you, every year has almost been the same for school. It was always the same. And then, we'll get into this a little bit later, but, now we have our own kids, and I was watching their Black History Month, and it was almost identical. Nothing had evolved. So after I got out of school, I kind of just like had nothing or didn't want anything to do with Black History Month. Like they would, I'm very close to Oakland. They would have like Black History Month celebration. I'm like, I'm not going there. Like, I don't want to hear about any more sad stories. And I think that was also something, as we get into our next question, is there's a difference when you talk about celebrating. It's not bringing up trauma. It's not bringing up the negativity. Celebration, you think about it, is like it's honoring. It's a joyful. It's higher vibrational content versus like, we're going to make you watch Roots, which is not, I mean, I've watched it. I would never choose to watch Roots right now. Like, that's not, I mean, especially with us having to watch it as we're growing up. So
sorry to interrupt you, but it's like having a birthday, right? Having like, so in my house, right? In my house, I told you this before. What we do is we go around the table and we give affirmations of what we love about the person, and we lift them up, right? That is a gift, like doing, our birthday celebrations. But I almost feel like Black History Month is almost like going around the table and talking about all the bad things, right? All the bad things and all the negative things and the negative connotations and all the negative media attention. Is almost like we highlight that instead of the good things.
Right. And very similar to you, it wasn't until last year when I started to balance out actually my kids' education that they were getting around Black History Month, where I started digging in, and I'm like, hey, y'all know about Mary Fields? I was like, did you know, like, all of these inventions, starting to go into, again, the history of where we actually came from. And somebody posted up on LinkedIn something really interesting. They said, we were not slaves, we were enslaved, right? Like, there's a completely different vocabulary that comes with this. And I think also looking at the language of Black History Month is really important. So let's get into this. We started talking about this off live, and I want to dive into this. This is where probably we might spend most of our time. How do you feel about Black History Month?
Honestly, it's one of those, I always feel like, how do I put this into words? I feel like it's a circus. I feel like it's a circus. I feel like it's, okay, here you go. This is what happened to you. We're going to throw it in your face. We're going to keep talking about it. And in the midst of that, which for me, I don't even understand why, but in the midst of that, it always comes down to, even in education or in the business sector, I've always been asked to do weird stuff. I've always been asked to do weird stuff. When I worked at the fire department, right? And so it gives me anxiety, because it's just like, what else do you want me to do for you? You want me to do what for you, right? So I worked at the fire department, and at the time they said, you're the only Black person that work at this wasn't his exact words, but you're the only Black person that work here. We want to do a story about you. And I'm just like, no, we're not going to do that, because we're not going to talk about, the lives that I saved last month or the last year. We're not going to talk about, the fact that, I just got my degree. We're not going to talk about the fact that I just got promoted, but we're going to talk about the fact that I'm Black. That's the only thing that we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to highlight. And I feel like, and I don't want to speak for, most Black Americans, but I feel like the majority of us, we feel that way. It's definitely not a time of celebration for me at all. It is not a time of celebration. I talk about, what it is to be Black in America, what it is to be Black in the world. I talk about this with my children, often. Yeah. Because of, the different negative things that they experience. And I combat that stuff with, you are a descendant of kings and queens. That is not who you are, right? This month is extremely challenging, especially to be a professional, extremely challenging.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you bring up some good points.
Yeah.
I've shared an article that I'm torn about Black History Month. And on one hand, I get it. Like, I believe that there are a lot of things that Black people have done that should be celebrated and honored and reminded and, you know, really looked at and been like, wow, that's amazing, and dig into the history and understand that. Like, I get that. On the other end, I feel like it creates more separation from humanity, because for us, for you and me, we're Black 365, right? Like, there's no it's like calling out that we're different from everything else. Black history is American history. You know, they had, I forget the infantry, but like they had soldiers, Black soldiers that fought, you know, blood, same as everyone else, that represent on our American flag, and Black history is American history. And I feel like sometimes when we have a month, it's not, and when that month isn't honored, right, where you have companies that do really bonehead stuff, like one company for Black History Month went ahead and changed their menu to like what they considered Black food, and they had Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King as a banner, and somebody else, and below it the menu was fried chicken, mashed potatoes, greens, and like that stuff does not make me want to celebrate Black History Month when we're fit into a stereotype that it should be this, you know. And when my kids are of mixed ethnicity, and so when I talk to them, it's like I'm not just like, it's not the month for them to be like, okay, we're going to talk to the Black side right now. You know, the other side, you just wait until the other, 11 months. Mm-hmm. It's like, I really think that they're, and when you use the word anxiety, I'm like, yes, I remember being in a workplace and I was the only with another gentleman, and we went into a conference room and we were like, let's not do anything. He was like, yeah, we're the only two Black people here. I'd feel really awkward if we celebrated Black History Month in the company.
Right. And how about this? How about as companies, right? Instead of having like this big to do, right? Especially like in the situation that you're in, right? How about we collectively as a voice say, you know what? We noticed when we're talking about Black history, we noticed that only 2 of us are Black in this company. How about we do something to change that? Let's do that for Black History Month. Let's hire more Black executives for Black History Month. Let's do that. Let's promote them. Let's freaking let's do that. Let's do that instead of creating this circus. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, and I also believe that, you know, if this month is bringing awareness to the Black culture, this month should also continue with honoring all types of culture. So when you come back around to this, it's not just one thing. Companies scramble when it hits February. They're like, oh, snap, it's February. We need to do something. And that type of reactiveness creates inauthentic production and takes away from the richness that Black History Month can have. It can be very, very simple. You can highlight very similar, like what I just did. You can highlight the history, highlight some unknown Black figures like Mary Fields or different people that did inventions that you might have not known, a little bit of research, but take that and say, you know, we understand that this is Black History Month. We traditionally don't or have not done something. We're going to use this month to not only honor the amazing and celebrate the amazing contributions of Black people in America, but we're also going to use this month to then incorporate other amazing cultures that have really influenced. And I think that is a beautiful way to, like, I would be, if someone says that's how we want to celebrate Black History Month, I'd be like, yes, you know, I would prefer not to be singled out. It just creates, again, that isolation and
it's gross,
perpetuating the fact that like it's us and them.
Yeah.
But it's us. It's all of us together. It's we, it's unity, it's humanity all together. And we should celebrate that humanity. But yeah, I'm definitely torn because I see both sides of it, but I don't like how it's been done.
Right. And I think it's good thing. I think it started off with good intentions. I think, Carter G.
Oh,
Woodson,
yeah.
I think that was good because at that time, like nobody was even talking about it. Right.
Right.
And I just feel like it's a moment that we haven't seized, but it's not too late because like we're having this discussion right now. So it's not too late. There's some good in it, but I think that we got to tell the whole story. And I think that the companies that, we work for, we got to do a better job. There's some companies that are doing amazing things when it comes to not just, Black History Month, but, they're talking about all different types of cultures.
Yeah.
And, you're not going into work and eating fried chicken and watermelon on those days, but, they're having, cultural, like real cultural foods.
Yep.
All different types of cultures, which I think is amazing. I think it's amazing. I think a lot of companies, what they do is they say, okay, Jim, Bob, you handle that. You're going to handle the festivities for Black History Month. And they're going to go off of what they think that they know, right? Instead of saying, hey, even me, right? Even me as being a Black man for 38 years, hey, I tell you what, I love this subject and I'm going to do my freaking research.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my research because I do not want it. I do not want it to be wrong. And I think if more companies did that, they reached out to people like you and said, hey, we're ignorant. We're ignorant. Help us out. We need help. And not only do we need help for this month, right? Not only do we need help for, February, 28 days in this month, the shortest month, right? On the calendar. Not only do we need help for that, we need help January through December, right? Or January through January so that we can get this right.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. You're absolutely right. You brought up two things that I really want to just touch on is you're not like I find as a Black person, I had to learn my own history because it was not taught in the way that I'm learning now. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know that. So, I'm happy to go on that learning journey with someone else, so it's really about, and then if you ask, and again, when you put your Black employees on the spot, they might not even know.
Right.
Because there's been so much that has happened and something like I said, for me, I detached myself from it because of
shame.
Yeah. There's other things that are going on there. And then you brought up the fried chicken component, which I could not leave this live without giving some history on stereotypes around fried chicken and Black people, because I remember my husband and I were talking a little bit about it, and I told him, I was like, go find out for yourself, because he was asking me about certain stereotypes. So for our live audience today, I want to give you guys a little bit of context around the fried chicken or the stereotype there. So essentially, when Black people were enslaved or when they were on the plantation, there was only a few things that they could actually handle. And one of those things, they were only able to handle like the chicken, the animal. They were able to handle the chicken. So they weren't able to touch other animals. So they got really creative with chicken. And they did a lot of different things with it. It was a part of something that they did because they were only allowed to touch certain animals. And what happened was they were able to make it different ways. And then I believe once the liberation and slavery ended, instead of, just kind of honoring the fact like, hey, oh, why are you guys always eating chicken? It was, it like mutated into making fun of Black people and chicken. And that's where you get this stereotype. And many cultures have stereotypes that are meant to suppress. And you think about after slavery was ended, there was this period that didn't mean like everything was hunky-dory. It was, what can we do to suppress, continue to suppress? And making fun of somebody is, being like, haha, this is what you can do. That's where all of that came from, and that stereotype. So just doing a little research where I was just like, and I think like some of the biggest fried chicken chains aren't even in America. Like if you go travel abroad, you'll find out, like when I was in Bali, Indonesia, like They love, like, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I would, just pause here and just check the stereotypes and look at and try and find where the history comes from, because it's usually meant to disempower a certain ethnicity, a certain culture. And if you can find the root of it, you can dismantle that stereotype, so you can step into a grander view of humanity.
Right. What do you think about, what do you think about, and I know this wasn't on the agenda for us to talk about, but what do you think about like our culture or our climate today, as far as if somebody does say something that is offensive, right? But it's not out of them being mean, but it's out of basically them being ignorant. Like, what do you think about that? What do you think about like how our society, like how we beat them up because of it? And I'm not talking about malicious stuff, like malicious name calling. I'm saying like innocent, because I see this. I saw this yesterday on LinkedIn. Somebody innocent. Somebody is, basically they're saying, hey, I acknowledge you, but the way that there is good initiative, bad judgment kind of situation, right?
Okay.
Like, but they're like canceled or muted. Like, what do you think about that?
So I believe, I have a knowingness, not a belief, a knowingness that we as humans, me as Sharice, you as Tony, doesn't get offended. Our egos get offended. And when our egos get offended, we're very much operating from our amygdala, our reaction, lower vibration, lower consciousness. And in those lower consciousness moments, we're not able to give grace, space, forgiveness. Those things don't even exist. I almost look at it like this. Most people say Sharice Fontes, right? Most people say Sharice Fontes in terms of my name. I once said Fontes.
There we go.
Most people don't know this story about me and my husband, but I won't. Nobody really knows what he is when you look at him. And so when I met him, I was like, okay, Fontes, and you're Mexican. He is far from Mexican, and it's not Fontes. He's Portuguese, and it's Funs or Fonts in America. So when someone says, or talks to my kids, because they have the same last name, they're like, they'll say Charlotte Fontes. I don't say, oh my God, how dare you? I'm like, and depending on where I am in relationship to my ego that day, and I always work to slay the ego, I may or may not correct them. Yeah. Or I may just, when I introduce myself, I was doing a speaking last week, and someone introduced me as Sharice Fontes. So I had the opportunity, I was already going to introduce myself. So I just said Sharice Fontes. And like, I feel like sometimes when our egos get offended because we don't use our compassion and love towards others, which really is a sign that we're not using love and compassion towards ourselves. And so if someone says something, I don't believe it's my job to correct them. I don't believe it's my job to, unless they are asking for my, assistance there, suggestions there. But especially online, that's a very messy place to go. Ego just shows up, because then again, no one can actually see. Right. You can't see the person responding. You see their picture and everything, but you can't really see or feel or be in the same ecosystem with them. I really do believe we should give people grace and space. I
love that, grace and space.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, with my girls, I mean, they've had moments where they come home and they're like, oh my God, Daddy, this girl touched my hair. And they're ready to go off the cliff on them. And I get it. But I feel like as a parent, right, as a mentor to my girls, it's my responsibility to educate them and to tell them, hey, maybe you need to educate that person that did it. Don't let nobody touch your hair. If you feel like that you're being disrespected, explain it to them, right? Explain it to them so that you can know that is disrespect. A lot of times people just do stuff and they don't have any idea what they're doing. And then what we do, right? What we do, and I was a part of this for a period in my life. It's just so militant. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the cause. What it does is it keeps it going. It keeps the hate going. And I find that it is my job sometimes to educate people, especially the people that's in my space, not necessarily like on the internet, but like in public. You know, I ask questions like, okay, I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Are we being disrespectful, or do you just not know what you're talking about?
Right.
There's times I'll be with my family and I'll get that clarification just so that I can know how to proceed, how to keep going. Because a lot of people, they just don't know, and they're going and they're living with stereotypes that they didn't even manifest. Manifested before them, and they have no idea how hurtful it could be sometimes. And that's one thing that, man, I really care about that, and I really, want to make sure that my girls aren't a part of, the cancel or mute culture, that they have an understanding, because that's what I think. It matters. It matters. It matters. Us connecting, us talking to one another, us understanding each other's differences and knowing why we have those differences. Oh my God, it's a beautiful thing. And it could be a beautiful conversation.
It can be I love how you said that. It can be a beautiful conversation. It absolutely can. Did you see, I think I tagged you in it, the video of Morgan Freeman talking about Black History Month? Did you see that? Hold on, I want to give a shout out. Kelsey, hey girl, hey, yes, thank you for joining us. We don't get offended, our egos do. Yes, this is true. Very, very, if you take nothing else from this conversation, please hang on to that. Thank you so much for joining us, Kelsey. He essentially, if no one has watched this, it's on our LinkedIn. And essentially it's an old 60-minute clip with Morgan Freeman and, gosh, now I'm blanking.
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The first one that came in, I was like, no, that's not his name. I remember they always say their names in the beginning. Do you remember this? Like, I'm this. Oh my gosh. If somebody can remember his name and throw it in the chat, please do. But I am not. Ed Wallace? No.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I could Google it.
Okay. Yeah, you can Google it because it's gonna bother me. But anyway, Morgan Freeman is talking to him, and he is like, I don't want a Black History Month. He's like, Black history is American history. And essentially, I don't know if his name, now I'm bothered. Is it Ed Wallace? I'm not gonna be able to, okay. Tony, Google it, find out. It's gonna bother me. I feel like I'm saying the name wrong.
My wife texted me and said it, that for some reason, it's not letting people join the event for some reason.
For the LinkedIn Live?
Yeah. I just saw people on there, maybe.
Huh.
All right. I'm gonna look this up though.
Okay. For people that are watching, just give us like a smiley face in the comments if you can see and hear us. Make sure that everything's working right.
Yeah, it's Mike Wallace. You're right.
Okay, all right, cool. Mike Wallace. And basically he's just like, I don't want a Black History Month because Black history is American history. And he's like, you're gonna relegate my history to a month? Like, you're just gonna boop, there it is. And then who did I say? Was it Mike Wallace or Ed
Wallace?
Mike Wallace.
He couldn't believe that he said that.
Mike Wallace was like, I'm paraphrasing y'all. Mike Wallace was like, kind of going on. He associated. He's like, well, how are we going to get rid of racism? And like and then you can see Morgan Freeman like, let's stop talking about it. I'm gonna stop. And then, before that, let me back up. He was like, what month is White History Month? Do you want a White History Month? And then you can see like might get like real nervous. And he's like, I'm Jewish. And he's like, okay, what month is Jewish History Month?
Yeah.
Like,
Can you imagine if, like, think about this, the freaking outrage it'll be if we just say, you know what, in March, we're going to make it White History Month. Can you imagine that?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. However, again, like that's where the tornness comes from, because again, it started off as Negro History Week for a reason. I want to read this quote to us from Carter G. Woodson. And he says, if race has no history, it has no worthwhile tradition. It becomes a negotiable factor that the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. Mm-hmm. And I think what's really important here is, yes, 1920 made a lot of sense. I feel like we've transcended, most of us have transcended. And I think that there's a way to repurpose Black History Month to where it's not just us and then there's them. Yeah, right. Okay, we got a bunch of chats, like people can hear us. If you could check in with your wife. Hey, Des. Hey, Joy. Thank you for joining us. Victoria.
Oh, cool.
Carol. Yeah, people can hear us. So awesome.
Again, it's probably my Wi-Fi. Oh. No, you're right. You're right. And that's the days where I'm like, oh man, I get it, because if there wasn't a Black History Month, a lot of the information, that I have, I wouldn't have, right? So it's not like, like as far as our ancestors, right? As far as our ancestors, I'm reading an excellent book. It's called Sundiata, an Epic of O'Malley. Have you read that?
No, I've heard of it though.
Oh my God. It is a beautiful, I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to watch the movie because it was like subtitles, right? And this is me just like, oh, it's not going to be good. But oh my God, it is so good. But the main point of the story is the griot. The griot, right? The griot, and our ancestors, they were the people that were responsible for telling the story.
Right. Yep.
Of our heritage, right? Yeah. And they had this big responsibility. They were like the timekeepers, pretty much. We don't have that. We don't have that. If I go and talk to my grandmother, right? She doesn't remember all of that stuff. She doesn't. It's not as kept as it should be, I feel like. And I think that's the plus, or the positive side of having not necessarily a Black History Month. I feel like it should probably be like in your house, right? In your house, you study, you learn about your family, you learn about your history. Like I said, it wasn't until a year ago that I realized that I was from Nigeria and from Mali.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I lost you. Are you back?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm going to send this live to who do we have, like Comcast, and be like, look, see, I'm not lying, even though I got the upgrade.
The internet, y'all. The internet. Okay, let's get into some stuff here. How can companies celebrate Black History Month right? What do you think? Because you've been on both sides, right? Like you've seen it, as not only an employee, but you've also seen it as a manager, as an executive. How do you feel companies can celebrate Black History Month right? Because we've already highlighted. Before we kind of get into this, let me just remind us that there have been ways where it's been celebrated wrong, from the fried chicken being on the menu, from Barnes and Noble taking books that were written by white authors and just putting Black people on the covers of them. And let's not even if we want to jump a couple months ahead, Juneteenth, which, that was a whole disaster as well. Snapchat putting up a filter with a Pan-African flag and smile to break the chains. Like these things are not okay for companies.
What did you say? Smile to break the chains?
Yes, they had a filter that basically had a Pan-African American flag, and they said smile, and then the chains would break. Companies should not be doing that. That's not how you celebrate Black History Month, nor bringing up trauma around Black History Month is how you celebrate it. So just now that we have established that, how should companies celebrate Black History Month?
I would say get educated. I would say, don't talk about the trauma.
Yeah.
Because there is a such thing as, a PTSD.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't acknowledge this. There is a such thing as a PTSD that, like, there's been studies that's been conducted that it's like in our DNA, right? Yeah. PTSD from that time and from that place. I would just say get educated, talk to your staff, talk to the Black people, right? The Black people that work at your company and say, how would, you like to be celebrated? And it's just so rough. Because now I'm saying, how would you like to be celebrated? Because what does that do? What does that do? It's almost like it creates okay, if you the subject, it's a rough one. It's a rough one. But I think it wouldn't be a rough subject if you were a company and you practice diversity and inclusion, right? Because if I work for a company, if I'm treated like crap freaking for 11 months and then, on February, I'm treated like a freaking king.
Yeah.
And there's a problem.
There is a problem.
Celebrate Black History Month. I got it. This is it. All right. Celebrate Black History Month by celebrating everybody every month.
There you are. There it is. I love that. And I think, you get educated. Yes. You don't have to go back into roots and slavery to the story. Let the story start with what Carter G. Woodson kind of already created and honor what's evolved over these many years. And you're right. Don't bring up Black trauma. That's not what's needed in this month. It's a celebration. You imagine, like you mentioned, the birthday thing. Can you imagine if you're like the entire birthday, they're just like, we're going to bring up all the people that have died before you on your birthday.
Yeah.
Celebrate life. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. So I think for the true celebration of Black History Month, truly celebrate it and expand knowledge past the historians that we've all been accustomed to, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X. Like there's some other really amazing figures in Black history, not only history, but today. Mm-hmm. Like today, there are things that are transcending. And so I put together how to prepare for Black History Month. And it really talks about 7 things that are really, really good. And these 7 things aren't just for Black history. I love what you said. Celebrate everyone. Celebrate all the cultures. And I think that that's why cultures tend to suffer, is because there are no celebratory moments of that core foundation within the culture, which are the people. Get to know your people. They have beautiful, rich histories within them as well. And to be able to celebrate that and bring that out will only amplify the richness of your culture throughout. So I definitely love what you said. I would add, you don't need to make it complicated. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple. I think the way that I've patterned it is the first kind of start with education, go into a way of celebration and then connection, and then end it off with community. How can we honor and celebrate community? And then do that for every culture that you currently have, or every culture, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. But guess what? People are variable. They're complex. They're human beings. They should be honored in that way, not just 28 days out of the month or when it seems convenient or when we're like, oh crap, we need to do something. And you put something together haphazardly and it just is not even offensive. It's just wrong.
It's wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah,
So
it's just like those companies that they put up those banners, right? And Amazon was one of them. They put up those banners, you know, Black Lives Matter banners when, you know, somebody gets killed, or, you know, they deem that it's an uprising so that it could basically so that they can be cute. But then you go to their website and they take it down, right? Or you go to Amazon, right, which is the same company that, right? And I'm not trying to bash Amazon. I got some really good friends that work on Amazon, but they have a lot of work to do, just like a lot of companies.
Right.
Just like a lot of companies. But you can go on Amazon and you can buy relics of whites only posters on Amazon.
Really?
Right now. Yeah. I saw it last night. So if Black lives really matter, right? If Black lives really matter, you would stop shoving that trash in our face. If my life really mattered, if your life really mattered to them, that stuff wouldn't be allowed to be purchased. That's what I'm thinking.
I had no idea. That's another thing too. You know, companies that went ahead and threw something up about, you know, Black Lives Matter right after George Floyd got killed. It's like, okay, it's been we're coming up on a year. Now we're going into Black History Month. You know, one of the ways that companies can do Black History Month, right, is to honor whatever commitment they made. You know, kind of go back and revisit that and say, even if they didn't do the commitment, be like, you know what, and that's the thing. It kind of goes back to the first thing that you said is like, you know, when people get offended and people just jump on them, grace and space to make mistakes. I remember when my kids were trying to learn how to walk and that whole transition, and they needed my grace and my space to be able to fall and learn and not be like, oh my gosh, can't you just get it? Look at me. You know, I'm walking. It's like, be able to know that everyone is human. Right. Everyone is human. We all have our own individual journeys that entwine with one another. And if we could just have a little bit more kindness and compassion, again, it goes back to, you have a choice to be right or to be kind. Pick kind, you know, and know that the ego amplified will always create more problems than the problem existing. And it's like, when we look at our culture holistically, the answers are there. We don't need to overcompensate, right? Keep it simple. One thing a week, just to honor and celebrate. And we also have Chinese New Year on the 12th. That's another beautiful culture to honor. And Chinese New Year is a little bit different than Black History Month because it's really rooted in tradition. So when you look at Chinese New Year, there's a lot of centuries of tradition there. And I think that, you know, honoring that is a really big thing too. It's like, honor these cultures is so beautiful. It's no coincidence I have Respect the Rainbow on, because all of our beautiful cultures together just creates this rainbow. Can you imagine you look at a rainbow, it just has one color? I don't even know what you would call that. Is that a rainbow? No, but everyone can recognize a rainbow because of the collective of colors. And that is what we are as a humanity. We are a diverse set of humanity, of cultures. And sometimes it's awkward for people to talk about. Some people get awkward saying the word Black. So let me just be upfront, and maybe Tony, if I'm speaking for you, let me know. But please call me Black. Just call me Black.
Me too.
Just, you know, don't do the African American thing, because that is just that's a whole nother topic we could possibly talk about. But like, get comfortable saying maybe that's one way. Get comfortable saying the word Black.
Right.
Black. Just say it, you know, like Black people that, you know, but then there's also a catch. You don't need to say it every single time to describe somebody.
Or my Black friends, or right. Because you see a lot of that, like on Facebook. Oh, I got a lot of Black friends. And you know what I mean? I honestly think that people are afraid to say Black because we cut their heads off. The minute, right? We cut people's heads off the minute that they make a mistake, right? Which goes back to, are you being kind or being right? Like we cut their head off the minute that they make a mistake. So some people are just like, dude, I don't know what to say.
Well,
like seriously, think about it. Like that is almost like what I'm not going to say we, because I'm not a part of that. And I know that you're not a part of that, but people are afraid to say Black because, they think that they're going to be met with resistance.
Well, I think to add to that, my husband was telling me a story of one time he was describing two homeless people outside of his warehouse, and he described it was like it was a Black dude and it was a white dude, and he was telling the story, and he was like, and then the Black dude did this and the white dude did this, and he's like, and then he kept saying it, and then a friend of his told the same exact story and was like, yeah, there's two homeless dudes that are fighting and blah blah blah, and he was like, he didn't notice that he kept using, their color to describe, them. And he was like, wait, why am I doing that? What is that needed? And I think if you are going to use the word, use it with intentionality,
right.
And don't use it like someone in the neighborhood had told me, they were like, yeah, some neighbor friend or whatever was like, that Black family down the street, they're so nice. And they were referring to me, and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, do they not see my husband is a completely we just
right.
So it's I think
how about the beautiful family down the street?
Right? Can't we just be the beautiful family down the street? Now if it calls for you to describe and it has intentionality.
If I'm like, which beautiful family? Oh, the one, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But I think that's another thing, is because this is not something that's a constant conversation. People don't know that you don't need to use that word. And media does it all the time. They're like, Black man, this, they're very good at pulling out. Like, I remember I saw something where they were like, first, this is not just with Black people too. They were like the first transgender, this, that, and it's like, why do you have to highlight why? Because it's just, and while I do believe there's some respect and honoring there, but it's like, can't you just not label me for a second and just see me for the human that I am, and not have to call these things out? Because I feel like it does an amygdala trigger for some people that have not educated themselves, nor do they have the experience with a diverse set of humanity.
Right. What do you think about the same thing with our vice president right now? What do you think about, the fact that we say, I'm really excited to see that, she is the vice president, just like I was to see, Barack Obama as president. And I think that that's important and significant. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So
your show, but I'm putting you on the spot right now.
No, I love it. That's why we do this thing. I admire that. And are you saying in regards to people saying like the first Black, this and this, or I mean, I think that at some point it should stop. I think at some point it's like, it's kind of, it's there. I don't think it needs to be plastered over every single thing that like throughout her term. But I do believe that it's something to be celebrated. It's not been something we've seen before. But again, it's like at some point it doesn't need to keep being reiterated as this is all that she is, right? And so I think that there's this finesse that comes with it. And again, it comes back to intentionality. What is the intention there? Is it why do you need to keep saying a specific thing over and over again?
Right.
Because after a while, it just, I don't feel like it always needs to be said, but to highlight it in the beginning.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. I think it's a beautiful moment. Especially when I see like sometimes it's like the first Black CEO of a company. It's like, wow, man, like that's a celebration because you have to and it also gives you a moment in time where it's like, wow, that's we've come
change. This is change. Yeah. And we're highlighting it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I thought about that. I thought about kind of a situation that I was in before when I was told, hey, I think it was a chief at my fire department. He was like, I think that you're the first Black captain that we've had. And initially I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I thought about it and I was just like, wait, no. I didn't get this position because I'm Black. I got it because I did what I was supposed to do. I did my job and I'm good at my job. And then it kind of just get a little bit murky, you know what I mean? And I've been thinking about that a lot because I celebrated the fact that, Kamala Harris is the vice president. And I mean, that was amazing, dude. I cried just like I cried when Barack Obama, became the president, because this is that change, when Sam Cooke said, change is going to come, like this is that change. And I feel like it's important to recognize that. And also, like you said, we don't need to keep talking about it. We got it. Okay, let's go on to the next thing that we need to overcome.
Right. I think, and as we kind of close here, and this is definitely for another conversation, we have to do this again, Tony. I mean, we are doing this again, but like what I'm finding is whenever a language or word gets wrapped up into something more of a lower frequency, so words that are just not very uplifting. One of the examples that I have is the word minority. Oh my gosh, this is totally for another conversation. But like the word minority, can you imagine?
I hear less than.
Huh?
I hear less than.
Right? Well, can you imagine? My little baby comes in and I'm like, hey, little minority. You would be like, what did you just call her, kid?
Yeah.
So
I was on you.
So if I'm not going to call somebody that I love that, why would I call that to someone that deserves love? Right. And that word just keeps getting wrapped up in everything. Like when we're hiring, when we're this, when we're doing that, and it does not go to a higher consciousness level. It's just kind of wrapped up in this. And it's like, well, what other words do we use? It's like, that's the problem. And I think, so it's like words like that. And I have a couple other examples, but I think that's for another live for us. What say you? Last word.
I'm stumped. Grace, understanding. That's what I take away from this conversation. Definitely grace and understanding.
Okay. So I think what we'll do now is I want to just highlight you for a second and just share with everyone, Tony is amazing, an amazing human. We've been doing these lives for a few months now, and he just has a lot of heart for humans. And so if you're interested in connecting with him, you want to talk a little bit more with him, Tony, shout out the links to follow, kind of tell people how they can get in touch with you.
So I am pretty much on every social media platform except for Twitch. I'm kind of on Twitter, but pretty much everything is Tony Taylor Inspires. And you got my website down there, TonyTaylorInspires.com. I can be reached through my website. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with any and everybody. I love talking. So.
Oh my gosh, Tony, you are the best. I really enjoy conversations, and I really do appreciate you doing this with me. Hang tight as we close out. I just want to thank you guys all for watching. You have entered the high vibe zone, where we talk about different conversations in a high vibrational context to solve these low vibrational problems that are within our humanity. For Black History Month, if you guys are interested and you still need to figure out what you want to do, if you want to do it the right way, There is a complete Black History preparing kit that I've put together for you guys. A lot of high vibrational content and some just really good tips, a calendar, make it visual. I'm so honored that my client partners that I work with are all implementing it in a beautiful, mindful way. So if you're interested in that, I'll drop the link in the comments for you guys, or you can go to my LinkedIn and log into the and look into the articles. It's in there. You have any questions about what we talked about? Let me know. Reach out to me. It's Cherise Fonts on LinkedIn. An amazing conversation. Shout out to Kelsey. Big takeaway, next steps. How can we integrate ongoing culture celebrations into our professional and personal lives? That might be a live talk. That might be something we talk about, Kelsey. Beautiful takeaway. And again, that kit that I put together for Black History Month can be repurposed for all different types of cultures. You just have to connect with that. So thank you guys for being with us in the High Vibe Zone. I'm Cherise Fonts with Tony Taylor. I will see you guys same time next week. Light, love, and gratitude for your day, for your week, for your month. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.